Joe Thomas in the morning here at the DNC outside in what has become Protest Central with Hawk Newsome, who is an activist and a social innovator, he says. He has started a campaign called I Ain't Voting, and it's I Ain't Voting Until Black Lives Matter, right?
That's correct.
Now, you put out a press release saying that you'd rather vote for Donald Trump than Hillary Clinton.
I'd rather not vote, I'd rather black people not vote, which would give Trump the presidency, yes. So we give it to him by default, yeah.
Do you think, and he said some interesting things in his acceptance speech, of the two candidates, Trump or Hillary, which one do you think actually understands the black community better?
Understands how to manipulate the black community or understands the black community?
Well, you answer it how you see fit.
Well, one, Donald Trump is a businessman, so he looks at it from a business standpoint. He also has very conservative views, but Donald Trump has single-handedly revived white supremacy in America. He speaks hate to an audience that finds it to be delectable, and he's feeding that fire, that racism, that hatefulness. He's feeding into that.
Is that what Trump's saying, or is that what people who have joined in and marched behind him, guys like David Duke, have said?
Well, Trump's not an idiot. So when you retweet a person from the KKK 4 or 5 times, you know exactly what you're doing. If you look back, he said, and I believe in the 90s sometime, that if he ever ran, he'd run as a Republican because they're so dumb they believe everything he said.
So what is it that the Black Lives Matter movement needs to hear from a candidate if you're not going to vote for anyone until the Black Lives Matter movement starts to be heard?
Well, let's talk about Hillary first. Okay, in the Democratic Party. For years, they've taken our votes for granted. For years, they've taken our votes and not given us anything in return. When corporations make contributions to campaigns, they do it with demands. When black people vote, they vote with an expectation. Now, do you honestly expect Hillary Clinton to do right by black lives? Do you honestly expect the most untrustworthy candidate in this election to bring justice to us without putting harsh, cold demands on her? Absolutely not. It's time they stepped up to the plate. I've been marching for the last 4 years with a black Democrat in office. So the Democrats really can't tell me anything about what they can do for me. They have to show me.
What about the instances of where black lives don't matter to other black men? We had a shooting just the other night in Fort Myers that's being investigated as that. One in Richmond in our listening area just outside of VCU as well. The black community is being as bad to itself as anyone else is. How do we stop that hatred?
There are tons of movements in our communities to help end violence. There are peace programs, peace initiatives in New York. A lot of people are working, but that doesn't get the attention. What gets the attention is when we scream Black Lives Matter, right? Because it kind of upsets the system. It upsets the structure when you take to the streets and you demand your rights, when you demand something of the government. We run through our communities. We have peace walks. We set up programs for kids. Me personally, I've helped 40, 50 young black and Latino men go to college. I've had Jewish kids on that team.
Well, when we get back home is the National Night Out. Well, that's another great program where communities try to take the streets back from the criminal element.
Yes, indeed. But what you should know, that these conversations, I'm in the South Bronx. A lot of these Black Lives Matter folks and the heads of the NAACP, I mean, they live in these homes. They are well taken care of. They're not in the community.
Well, I've heard it called the misery industry, where as long as, there's people to march, they will have a nice, cushy job.
Absolutely. Now here you have it. These folks are out there, and they're speaking for the people, but they're not listening to the people. I canvass. I work in the community, okay? I talk to guys who sell Lucy's and DVDs. You understand what I'm saying? I hear what they're saying. And you know what they say to me? They say, I ain't voting. Why? Because these politicians come in here, they make promises, and then they don't give us anything in return.
Would just a better economy so that you don't have to be selling knockoff DVDs and Lucy's on the street help a long way? I mean, I grew up in Queens as well. I know when I was a kid, the South Bronx was no joke. So now here you are, you're a young man. It's still not turned around. I mean, 50 years of policies that haven't helped bring jobs back in where men and women can raise their families without having to do crime.
Whose policies are they? The Democrats. The Democrats have been failing us. They've been arresting us. They haven't protected us from the police. It's out of control. The Republicans are no better. They have a downright disdain for the black man, from my perception.
Would it be fair, though, to say that most police officers are good? There are some bad apples, and that for the most part, if police do something in a community, it's because the politicians order them to.
Absolutely.
When the politicians order the police in to do things, though, that's where the policies, if you don't vote, the politicians aren't going to be making the policies that send the police into your communities to help, not hurt.
The police are the gatekeepers. They do what they're allowed to do. Politicians need to come up with common sense legislation to help police do a better job. Here it is. Make falsifying documents by a police officer a federal offense. That's how you penetrate that blue wall. Now it's like, I want to help you out, but it's my pension, it's my family. It's really common sense.
Well, it's something that you or I, if we falsified our tax records, we'd go to jail.
Exactly.
So Hank, is there a place people can read? Hawk. Hawk. What can people go onto a website, read what you're talking about? Because I think there's more commonality in between a lot of the political agendas than you realize. I have a lot of friends who work in the overcriminalization agenda, right on crime, those kind of things as well, and those are conservatives that do that as well, Hawk. So where can we all meet in the middle on this?
See, here's the thing, right? If they capitulate, I'll capitulate. You understand? We're not telling people not to vote. We're telling them to come forward. We're not telling people not to vote. We're telling them to withhold on voting until they come to us with a common sense measure. And I'm at hawk.newsome, HAWK.newsome, NEWSOME, on Instagram and Twitter. Okay. You can also go to I Ain't Voting. That's at I Ain't Voting on Facebook. And I ain't voting on Instagram and Twitter as well.
Because
no, you have to understand. I was walking around New York City, depressed, upset, trying to figure out how can we make Black Lives Matter, and this is what I came up with.
Well, and if we can get jobs back into the community, wouldn't all lives start mattering? Black ones, white ones, everyone?
Yes, indeed. Let me tell you something. I don't run around talking about. I know a lot of people, a lot of different types of people in my neighborhood. And I can say, hey, change your life. But how much will they listen to me until I can put food on their table?
Well, that's right. And that's one of the things that I think Republicans have done a bad job about, too. They'll talk about opening up the economy, but they don't talk about a guy who has to pay his mortgage this week.
Exactly.
Well, Hawk, I really appreciate you taking some time out with us, and keep holding on to that vote.
Thank you, brother.
Joe Thomas here in the morning outside of the DNC headquarters.